Welcome back to another episode of the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I'm your host and founder of Prep Dish, Allison Schaaf. If you are listening to today's episode on the podcast, I want you to know that you can also tune in on YouTube. And for those of you on YouTube, hello. This is our first podcast episode that we are doing on YouTube. And the reason we are bringing on video is today is also our first interview. We are going to be doing 1 or 2 interview episodes each month for 2024. And I'm excited to kick that off today. We have nutritionist Aimee Gallo, and I'm going to be talking to Aimee about eating more food, not less, and the importance of that, talking through satiety and cravings. We talk a lot about protein and focusing on breakfast, portion sizes, a lot of questions that I know have been on some of your minds. So I think it'll be a really interesting topic. I know I enjoyed the discussion. Before we get into the episode, I want to remind you that if you have not tried out the Prep Dish time-saving meal plans, we have a free trial set up for you at prepdish.com/MPM. But the most exciting part about this free trial is if you sign up in the month of January, we are doing a focus on protein. And the idea behind this actually came from some of these interviews. I started doing these interviews back in the fall, and protein was coming up time and time again. And I also was hearing from a lot of the Prep Dish subscribers that you all were looking to include more protein into your diet. Breakfast was another concern. So we created these protein-rich meal plans. They are really fast. I know a lot of you love our super fast plans that are an hour of prep, and they each give 30 grams or more of protein per meal, including that breakfast option. So if you want to try out these protein meal plans, sign up in the month of January at prepdish.com/MPM. You'll have access to the super fast protein menus as well as all of our other meal plans that are included in our service. Okay, I am excited to dive into today's episode. Here is my interview with Aimee. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I am here with Aimee Gallo and am excited for our conversation today. Aimee, welcome. Why don't you tell listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Aimee Gallo, and I am a practicing nutritionist and health coach. I've been working in the field of metabolic health and weight loss, as well as food intolerances and endurance sports nutrition since 2004. So I've been at this pretty much my entire career, and I've been really lucky to find my passion at a young age and fall in love with it and still stay super excited about what I do. I have a private practice called Vibrance Nutrition and Fitness, and I work one-on-one with people and help them kind of find exactly what is going to work for them, not only to get the results that they're looking for, but to do so in a sustainable way so that the tools that they learn, they can use ongoing for multiple years. And that's one area where actually Prep Dish has been very, very helpful for my clientele.
Great. Yeah, we've been working together, kind of side note, but Aimee's been referring her clients to Prep Dish for years. I always see her name come through as a partner. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about today, because I saw a recent blog post that you wrote that was titled something along the lines of eating more to lose weight. And that was it was intriguing to me, but also rang very true to me. But can you talk a little bit more about that topic?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the people that I work with are of a certain age, and many of them have been told that they've needed to lose weight for decades. So there's sort of this notion that, oh, you need to eat less, you need to eat less, you need to eat less to lose weight. And, from a very sort of high level overview, it is common and typical that intaking less energy would lead to weight loss, but this is not always the case. And when we stop at that level of calories in, calories out, we miss a lot of really important nuance that is essential for success and for long-term success. Mm-hmm. So when I say eat more to lose weight, and I have this conversation almost every week in practice, it's to help shift that paradigm from restriction to abundance, and from focusing on what you want to be moving towards rather than what you want to restrict or pull away from. And when people are looking to lose weight, there are two very critical things that they need to eat more of. And often there's a third as well, at least with the demographic I work with. So nearly all the time, people who are looking to lose weight need to eat more protein. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One, protein is incredibly satisfying. It's very satiating and filling. So when we eat more protein, we stay satisfied for longer. And getting a very high protein breakfast often is the key for killing cravings later in the day. So if you're one of those folks who are like, I'm in a hurry in the morning and I just like go to Starbucks and get a latte in the drive-through, or a little egg bites, and then I have my lunch, and then I get home from dinner and I start snacking while I'm making dinner, and then have a glass of wine. And then after dinner, I have a little chocolate with a second glass of wine, right? You're kind of like grazing in the evening, having up to like 40 grams of protein in the morning, which if you're going through that Starbucks drive-through, that's like 4 egg bites and a little sandwich, right? I mean, it's quite a bit of protein. That will pretty much, for most people, eliminate that desire to graze in the evening or to graze while making dinner, simply because you get a really good dose of protein in the morning that allows your blood sugar to stay stable throughout the day. The other thing with protein is that it prevents muscle loss, and muscle is metabolism. Our muscle is an organ. It's one of the biggest organs in the body. And we don't think of our muscle as an organ, but it very much acts like one. And muscle is key to our metabolism because it's really sort of the one organ that we can control. It's how many calories it burns a day. If you have more muscle mass, you burn more calories. If you diet your muscle away, you'll end up with a lower metabolic rate when you reach your target weight, which makes it a lot harder to keep that weight off, and also creates a lot of long-term problems, increased chronic disease risk down the road. So eating more protein allows you to hold onto your muscle mass while you're losing weight, which keeps your metabolism strong and keeps you healthy in the decades to come as well. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
And
yeah, and that's very interesting. I've had a few, and I don't know whose interview will play first, but I've had another recent interview. Protein has been coming up a lot on my radar, so we can talk more about that, but I do want to hear the other two.
The other big one is produce, and Americans are notorious for neglecting their produce. And this is another thing that I really appreciate about Prep Dish is it's such a high produce meal plan, and it's so well organized that it makes it a lot easier for my clients to increase their produce intake at each meal. And eating more produce provides us with these micronutrients that our metabolism needs to stay healthy. So in order for weight loss to be sustainable and for health to be sustained as we age, we need to make sure that we are getting all of those essential vitamins and minerals. And 99% of Americans don't meet the recommended daily intake for all of the known vitamins and minerals. So one of the reasons for this is insufficient produce intake. So if we can increase our produce, not only do we get more of those nutrients that our body needs to have a healthy metabolism and to lose weight in a sustainable way, but we also then have our plate covered by a large volume of food because our vegetables take up a lot of space, right? They take up a lot of space. They fill our stomach. They've got a lot of fiber in there, but they also contain the most nutrients per bite and per calorie of pretty much any other food in existence, aside from like liver and shellfish. So produce is a really, really a key component for healthy weight loss long-term. And that's another thing that I'm always encouraging my clients to get more produce. And I step into conversation saying, okay, your next meal and every meal thereafter, ask yourself 2 questions. Where is my protein? And where is my produce? And if you think about stepping into your meals, you go into a restaurant, scan the menu. Where's the protein? Where's the produce? Find those 2 things together, order that, right? Look for the protein, look for the produce, and let that guide you towards what you want to be doing rather than thinking, oh, I need to avoid carbs, or I need to avoid red meat, or I need to avoid this or that or the other, right? Focus on what you're moving towards. It's so much more inspiring and fun a process if you are reaching for something rather than running away from something.
I mean, such an important mindset shift, right? To be more going at it from a positive thing. And it's going to be a lot more sustainable. It's kind of what I say with the recipes we create is I'm always focused on flavor. Yes, I have nutrition in the back of my mind, but if it doesn't taste good and you don't enjoy it, I wouldn't want you to stick with it. So, but I think that's kind of the same mindset of, this has to be something that you're excited about and moving towards. So I really like that mindset shift.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And then you mentioned a third
thing. Yeah. So sometimes people will come to me and they've been trying to lose weight on their own and they've had some success and then they stalled out early. Or we've been working together and then they stall out. And in general, I don't like to lead with calorie counting or food logging because that is for nearly all of us an inherently unsustainable process, right? And depending on one's personal history with weight loss or dieting, it can be very triggering to track their food. However, for individuals who have plateaued and their weight has been stable for 5 or 6 weeks and they're not getting ahead and they're not kind of getting to where they want to go, I'll have them do a food log for a week or two. And about half the time, the problem is they're not eating enough calories. And this flies in the face of everything that you read in the magazines, about losing weight. For some people, particularly those who have been on multiple diets for many decades, they have undergone what's called metabolic adaptation. And they've gotten so good at eating so little that their metabolism has slowed down. And for these people, the way to recover their metabolic health is to actually eat more calories, which is, for most of them, a terrifying prospect.
Yeah.
So, essentially, like our metabolism is like a depression era bank account. Before you could just take out a line of credit. Our bodies can't take out a line of credit to make up for energy that's not coming in, right? So if you're chronically under eating, instead of, like a vehicle using the gas that it'll use until the tank is empty, your body will dial things back, right? It's like turning the thermostat down so that we can get more time to potentially find the food rather than go full throttle until we die, right? Thank goodness for this. This is a good thing. It's why humans are still around.
Yes.
So to recover that metabolic health, to kind of dial that thermostat back up, you have to eat additional calories. But to do that and prevent weight gain, it needs to be done in a very slow, systematic fashion. So in pop culture, and the bodybuilders are really the ones who kind of have tried this out and tested this in the field. It's called reverse dieting. And it's something that they'll do after a competition. And it'll allow them to recover their metabolic health and gain healthy weight, but not overshoot and gain excess weight. Now, for someone who's still on the weight loss journey, it's done to a lesser degree than a bodybuilder would do who's looking to actually gain some weight, right? But it's just, it's something that most people don't even think is a possibility, that they would actually have to eat more to lose weight. And then when this happens, they get to enjoy more food, they get more nourishment, they get more of those vitamins and minerals that their body needs to turn that thermostat back up. And then the scale starts inching back downward.
That is so interesting. I'm sure you have some people. Do you ever have anyone that really resists trying that out, or are they?
Absolutely. And if I was going to kind of create an archetype of that person, it's usually someone who is female, not always, but usually someone who's female who has been dieting since childhood. And, this is someone who's been told for multiple decades, you eat too much, you eat too much, you eat too much. And then they also have a history of sometimes very severe low calorie diets leading to some success. So they have this lived experience of, well, if I eat 500 or 700 calories a day, I'll lose weight. I just have to figure out how to do that forever. But it's like, that's not how this works. I mean, that's a good way to starve yourself to death.
Yeah.
You know, and starving doesn't look like the pictures we see from, it does. I mean, at least, in industrialized nations, it doesn't look like those photos that we see from wartime.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have a BMI over 30 and still be starving.
Mm-hmm. So how do you recommend that people handle portion size if they're in that mindset of, oh, I need to portion things out? What are your tips for looking at portion size?
If we're not dealing with an issue of metabolic adaptation and the metabolism slowing down, it's a slow incremental increase. And actually, either way, right? Whether it's metabolic adaptation or not, if someone is very resistant to increasing their portions, like I really want to honor and respect that struggle because it's real. It's real. Yeah. And bullying it is not helpful. So, and protein can be so filling that people really struggle to eat enough.
Yeah.
So that it can take months, to actually get enough protein that, the amount of protein your body actually needs to thrive because it's so filling. So it's really a step-by-step process, literally a bite-by-bite experience. And, all I ask my clients is like, okay, first let's aim for like 1/5 size serving of vegetables a day if you're not getting that. And then we do that twice a day. And then, same thing with protein. Well, if you can only eat like half a palm of protein before you get full, let's increase it to a palm size. And then let's take it from there. And it's just bit by bit. And, when you reach that point where you're really full, stop. If there's leftovers, set them aside. Come back to them as a snack later.
Yeah.
And then, hey, look, you don't have to prepare a snack. It's right there. Yeah. You can just finish lunch later.
Yeah. No. And I mean, I could kind of relate just because going through breastfeeding for several years, my son actually is still nursing, and then doing heavy weightlifting. And when I brought into heavy weightlifting, that's where, and I work with a coach, and even with a background in nutrition, it's like, wow, when you're doing weightlifting and building muscle, I even have to focus on making sure you're eating enough, and I never, even having that background in nutrition, I was still kind of taught the opposite when I think back to my schooling years ago. So
absolutely. I was too.
Yeah.
It's really hard to, and I think too, being raised female, it's difficult for us to wrap our minds around the thought that we need to eat more. That's for football players, right? That's for like soccer players. And in my mind, they're always male. Yeah. But me, I'm just like this 5'2" woman who's about the size of a 12-year-old. So why would I need to eat more?
Yeah.
And so there's definitely like a deeply ingrained cultural belief that we need less and we shouldn't, right? That it's almost societally discouraged for a woman to have a large, robust appetite.
Yep.
Right? Like there's something inherently distasteful culturally for that to be a thing. You're supposed to eat like a bird and be delicate and like, well, and thankfully, like in my younger patients, the Gen Z folk and younger millennials, that's falling away.
Okay, good.
And that's so encouraging to see, young people come in and be like, I want to lift heavy. I want muscles. I want, and they don't have a problem eating more. They're like, let's do this.
Yeah.
And that it's so good to see that finally, after who knows how many decades, certainly going back to my great grandmother, that old paradigm is falling away.
Yeah. Well, oh my goodness, that could be a whole other topic of all the, food trends and fads that we lived through years ago. That,
for sure.
Having to overcome the fear of fat and all of that. But I mean, I'm so glad to be producing recipes in this day and age where we can add as much flavor as we want and not have to worry about a lot of that. So before we wrap up, I do want to touch on, because earlier in the protein conversation, you talked about doing more protein at breakfast. And I'm guessing there's going to be people wondering, how do I even go about that? Like, do you have some ideas on how people can increase their protein intake at breakfast?
I do. So if you're one of those people who you're like rolling out of bed, rushing to work, you grab a latte on the way to work, you can make what I call a protein latte. And what you'll want to do is take a reusable sealed container, like a beverage container, hot beverage container. Contigo is my favorite brand.
Yep.
And you get your latte from your favorite barista and you put a scoop of whey protein in there. And you can put a scoop of collagen in there too. So if you're using dairy milk, depending on the size of the latte, it'll have about 8 to 12 grams of protein. That scoop of whey protein powder is going to add another 25 or so, right? So then we're hitting 30, 32. Add that collagen in there and bam, you've bumped it up just over 40. So then you seal your latte after you've added your protein powder, shake it up like Tom Cruise in the movie Cocktail, right? So you want to make sure it's a well-sealed latte container, right? And it's got hot liquid in it. So you need to be very careful with this. And then, you unseal the lock on there and it's very well mixed. It's quite lovely. So for people who are dairy intolerant, obviously that's not going to work well.
Yeah.
I will say I have tried, soy milk is the closest in terms of protein content to dairy milk, but that's also another highly, intolerant protein source. So the plant-based proteins can definitely work. The flavor, you have to try and experiment to find one that you really like when it comes to flavor. But then other options in terms of getting protein in the morning would be, adding one of those protein powders to a Greek yogurt, or doing like if you have the appetite for 4 eggs in the morning, that would be fantastic. A lot of folks don't. Something else that you can do is mix eggs and chorizo or a poultry sausage. And mixing proteins often makes it easier to get more in because you have that variety that keeps the appetite stimulated for a little bit longer, right? So 2 eggs, maybe half a cup of chorizo and some black beans for breakfast would be, with some cheese. If you tolerate dairy, that would be a really great way to get up to that 40 grams in the morning. And I know that's a tall ask. I know it's not a simple thing to do to get that much protein in the morning. The 40 grams specifically is best for women who are active or women who are in that perimenopause, postmenopause phase of life. We need more protein to signal to our muscles, hey, keep this. This is important. If you are, still menstruating, you're at 30 or under, you can get away with 20 or 30 grams of protein in the morning and not have to worry as much about the muscle retention unless you are extremely active. And then your best bet is to aim for the 40.
Yeah, those are great tips. And I will say I've gotten the more I've incorporated some meat into my breakfast, I've gotten used to it. And, it depends on the morning. There's some mornings where I don't, but it becomes a little more, tasteful once you try it for a little, like,
once you get
with
used
different
to it.
things. Like you said, I do the same thing of mixing them with the eggs, but like some ground meat, if I do like a vegetable hash and some ground meat, I found that it's actually quite filling and tasty. So
I had a client once who did, she was really into the sweet breakfasts. And what she ended up doing was taking egg whites and doing egg whites with, I think, 1 or 2 whole eggs. So she had some of the yolk in there as well. And then she would add cinnamon and erythritol to that. And so it was essentially like having the French toast batter. And that was how she ended up getting her protein in the morning. I was like, that's unconventional, but I respect that. That is a clever idea.
Yeah, no, I think you just have to play around and see, what works for you and how to make it work. So
exactly.
Yeah, this has been really, really insightful. I appreciate your time here. Let folks know how they can find you and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do one-on-one nutrition coaching at vibrancenutrition.com. That's VIBRANCE vibrancenutrition.com. I also put out a newsletter fairly regularly with tips and recipes, and you're welcome to sign up for that on my website. I'm also releasing a podcast called Blasphemous Nutrition in early 2024. I'm aiming to release that by the end of January. And it's blasphemous because we kind of are in a phase of culture where things are very polarized and it's either all this or all that. And I live in the world of nuance and don't generally tend to go this way or that way. And so I feel like everything I say is inherently blasphemous to somebody. So if I'm going to make a podcast,
I love it.
It's going to be blasphemous, folks.
That's good. I like it. Well, Aimee, thank you so much. Any final parting words before we sign off?
Allison, honestly, because I have this opportunity to talk to you, I really want to thank you for Prep Dish. It has completely changed how I look at food prep in my own kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And it saved my hide in grad school because I was going to grad school with a toddler, and that was that was something else. So Prep Dish was it was a lifesaver for me.
Awesome.
And it's been so helpful to so many of my clients and patients. And so I'm just really grateful for what you've created.
Well, thank you so much. I always love seeing your name pop up when I'm doing my reporting. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Aimee, for that wonderful interview. A reminder that if you are wanting to add more protein into your diet, have it be delicious and easy, then I encourage you to try out our new Protein Boost meal plans. You can head to prepdish.com/MPM, short for Meal Prep Monday, to have a 2-week free trial. So you can try them out for 2 weeks and see if they're a fit. Again, that's prepdish.com/MPM, linked in the show notes. If you are a longtime listener of Prep Dish and have not left a rating and review, I would so appreciate that if you're listening to us on the podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, I would love to know, give us a thumbs up if you like this. We've been doing this podcast for a few years, but it's always been solo episodes, so I've never done video format. Let me know, do you like the video format? If that's something you want us to continue doing this year. I am going to be recording these videos, and if it's something y'all want to see, I can continue to put them up in this format as well. Thank you for joining me, and I will be back again next Monday with another episode.